One.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Waterdhavian Job. I am your DM, Brad, joined today by three of my players because Zach is celebrating Mother's Day a day early, apparently, and Mike is sick. Unfortunate. F in chat for Mike. So, this is episode 14, and before we go ahead and get started here, while I do some of this shenanigans. Mike was going to do the recap, but he's not here to do it. So, by nature of not having inspiration and having been here last week, James gets to do the recap again. So, James,
You
if you would please
fools.
tell us what
Give me the
happened
power.
last time on the
Yes.
Waterdhavian Job.
Last time, on the previous session of Dungeons and Dragons that we played on a whole 7 days ago, therefore we're making it last session, we came in to our, humble abode of Trollskull Manor. The previous evening, we had unfortunately, dealt with the fallout of the loss of our dear companion and irreplaceable sous chef, Dricken. This unforeseen loss sent Bassick into a great despair, meaning that he was not able to assist us with any of our following day's actions. After Dricken's body was taken away by Sheldrake and we were briefly questioned by the guard, we decided to return to the manor and rest up for the night. The next day, the assessor from the Guild of Plumbing people, Foundation and Basement something, those people, he came and then went into the basement to assess the current structural integrity of the building. He spent some time doing that, and while doing so, our dear friend Rainier Everamber decided to show up. A pleasant visit, made even better by the fact that he brought with us two new companions to help shore up our number. A woman by the name of Ariadne Fallsong, who appeared to be, some sort of wizard that Valerie could determine by the spellbook she carried on her waist, and a man by the name of Oliver Armos, a very gruff, buff-looking Goliath who apparently had a very sweet singing voice. Rainier said that he'd asked them to help us out, get us on track. We thanked him very much, and eventually he left, and we had two new party members. After that, the dwarf came, and he told us about some of the pricing that we would have to get the basement fixed. But he also came up with an interesting realization. Apparently, the basement to Trollskull Manor is larger than it is meant to actually be. Apparently, at some point in its history, some sloppily erected walls were put in place to to partition off certain areas of the basement. This would have a increase in the price that would take to fix up the place, but in exchange, we may actually have more room to store things underground than we initially thought. Nonetheless, the full price was given to us, and then the dwarf bid us farewell. So, Valerie, now having a decent idea of the pricing situation for how to get the entire establishment refurbished, decided that they needed a quick injection of funds in order to actually get started. And where better than Blue Alley? So, the new party made their way back to Blue Alley. They were taunted by the mouth at the door that said their progress had been reset and distributed the keys as previously. We then made our way back to where we initially had left off. Proceeded through some different rooms. None of real note, if I remember correctly. I think there was some fighting. And eventually, we managed to find our way into a room that apparently had these mirrors surrounding it everywhere, almost looking like it would go on forever and having a reflection everywhere. But the important thing was, inside of it was the Celestite Unicorn, the item that we had been sent to get by Mert Moneybags. So after recovering the unicorn, we decided to have a little look around, maybe some more of the dungeon. But that quickly wore off its appeal after a near suffocation of Sir Reginald. Yeah, yes, Sir Reginald. And so we decided to just cut our losses and leave. So we took the Celestite Unicorn, and that's where we left off, pushing it down the street. and it's being carried by Oliver and Sir Reginald at the moment.
Yes, indeed. We rejoin as you guys are basically slowly making your way through the streets of the Sea Ward, where Blue Alley is located. I guess my first question is, where are you taking the unicorn?
The residents of Mert Moneybags.
All right. So you begin making your way south down the main road through town here. It is pretty much like the middle of the day. A lot of people are kind of giving you some odd looks as you're just dragging this like massive unicorn statue
Make
through the
way!
streets.
Make way!
And about like 5 minutes or so passes. You're kind of like going about here, and Sir Reginald and Oliver just like suddenly like stop and like set the unicorn down for a moment. Like Oliver kind of like sits cross-legged and kind of like begins like breathing, like catching his breath. Obviously not used to such like strenuous manual labor. As Sir Reginald sort of like strokes his beard, and he like turns to you and he says, Lady Valerie, if I may, for a moment, it appears that this statue is speaking with us.
Yes, it's right there.
And he says, no, I mean, talking in our minds.
What?
And he says, he kind of like shrugs and says, I don't know. It claims to be a real unicorn.
I sort of like look at the statue and look at him. It looks very Celeste-like to me. What do you mean? I can't hear anything.
And he just
when did it start talking to you?
When we removed it from the alley.
Right.
Perhaps you should try to converse with it. Come, place a hand upon this majestic steed.
I sort of like look over at Ariane and then look back at the unicorn and it's like, okay. Crazy people. And I'll like touch it. Touch it, Brad.
So as you touch this statue, it's sort of like cold to the touch, like stone. For a moment, you believe that Sir Reginald was just playing an elaborate prank on you, as you kind of like don't really like feel any sort of like immediate sensation. But as you go to pull your hand back, you hear this sort of like soft, feminine sort of sounding voice echoing inside the back of your mind, and it says, "Hello, who is there?"
Hey, Brad.
Yes.
I could have had one more spell prepared this entire time.
Classic.
Oh, Christ. Anyway, yes. So the unicorn. I like sort of think back, I suppose. I suppose I'd actually say it verbally, and it's like, I'm Valerie Cadencia von Bourbon. Who are you?
My name is Primara. And I was a unicorn.
Okay. I sort of like turn over to like Arya and it's like, Arya, could you come touch this unicorn statue?
Unicorn.
Sorry.
What was that? Are you saying
breaking up
something?
a little bit, yeah.
I will do the thing.
You will touch the unicorn?
Yes.
All right. So as you touch it, there's again like a brief moment before you like hear this voice as well. So I guess Valerie kind of like stepped away, and it says, "I am sure you are quite confused as to the situation. Believe me,
I'd probably
I have
still be touching it.
an explanation for you." And you hear this voice now, sort of like echoing in the back of your head. You both kind of like hear it simultaneously.
Go on.
Right.
And it says, long ago, I was carried into battle against an evil sorcerer. It says, it was a long and arduous affair, and ultimately, we were unsuccessful, and I was transformed into the state you see now, sealed away in stone. He says,
Interesting.
"Many years have passed by. I was traded as a strange collectible many times before I wound up in the collection of a rather strange, rotund man.
And did this man have a name?
He says, I do not know. He never spoke with me. His assistants carried me into some sort of dark room. I cannot see much of what is going on around me, and just placed me there for a long, long time.
Until us.
He said, until some strange folks came and removed me from the room, only to place me in another one. And that is when you happened upon me in that infernal place.
I sort of like, would I like know of any spell that would do this? Or like, what do I know about unicorns, actually?
Make an Arcana check.
Okay. Hiya!
So you, being sisters with a wizard who is, in particular, a transmutation specialist, have heard much about spells that can change the form of one thing into another. This, in particular, reminds you of a time that Alexei was telling you of a particularly powerful spell that could permanently change a creature into anything, even an object. It is
Right. What was the
incredibly
spell?
powerful magic, known as true polymorph.
True polymorph, eh? Right. Ooh. Is there any way to dispel that?
Theoretically, assuming there is not some sort of other enchantment going on here, anybody who is capable of dispelling magic could attempt to do so. However, the effect that has caused it is incredibly strong, and so would be quite difficult or expensive to do so.
I see.
In other words,
Well,
it's a 9th level spell, and so you would have to make a very high check or have a 9th level dispel magic.
yeah, I suppose like Valerie like would I guess look over to Arya and say it's like I don't suppose on the off chance you have the capacity to break this enchantment.
I do not.
Hmm.
Best I
Well,
could do is check it to make sure that is, in fact, what is going on.
I suppose it couldn't
So,
hurt.
if you boys want to rest for about 10 minutes and give me some time.
That's fine. I think all of ours needing that rest. Maybe it's
I
just
will
like starred angel on the ground.
pull out my pearl that cost all of my starting gold, my spell book, and I will start ritual casting Identify.
Okay. You do that then. So you guys like pull the statue over into like an alleyway or something, just to be
Yeah.
like, out of the flow of traffic, and begin the process of casting this ritual. So we'll just go ahead and say that you do successfully complete it. You learn when other spells are affecting the item and what they are. Your identify spell does in fact corroborate with Valerie's theory upon hearing this. And you learn that this statue is indeed under the effects of a true polymorph spell.
But that's it, nothing else?
Yeah, I don't think that as far as you can tell, there are no other magical effects currently affecting this object. Just the true polymorph.
It would appear that you are not wrong.
Well, I was hoping maybe I was a bit wrong and it could be easier, but what do I know
Because
about
it's
unicorn?
far beyond my abilities.
Yes.
Perhaps my mother could attempt it. I'm not even sure where she is right now.
Oh, is she a powerful wizard as well?
Not probably not powerful enough to cast the spell. She could potentially attempt to break.
Hmm. Well, as much as I complain about my sister, maybe she would have been able to pull this off as well. Hmm. Well, maybe Mert might have the resources to break this enchantment. I mean, I imagine he wanted us to get the unicorn for a reason.
Well, did that unicorn's description of its previous captors ring any bells for you?
I mean, Mert is a bit of a weighty fellow, but and she shrugs and says, he didn't mention anything about the unicorn having been stolen from him. At least not that I recall.
I suspect he wouldn't be interested in restoring it.
I mean, she kind of shrugs and she says, he didn't strike me as a very cruel individual. I imagine if we get him to his hand on the statue and him to talk to it, I think maybe he could be convinced.
Come to think of it, have I heard of this man?
Mert, yeah, I mean, everybody in the city has heard of him. He is, his full title is, Valerie has been calling him Mert Moneybags, but his actual name is Mert the Moneylender. He is one of very few masked lords who are kind of like the council that makes decisions about the city and have their identities hidden on purpose to avoid being assassinated all the time. He is one of the few masked lords that is very open about being a masked lord. He just basically he has come out and said, like, I am a masked lord, and he is powerful and influential, serving as an advisor to the open lord of the city quite frequently.
I'm going to assume he doesn't have a reputation of altruism.
Not really. He used to be an adventurer in the past, made quite a fortune, and then kind of expanded into money lending business, as his moniker would suggest. He's not necessarily known for like being super charitable, but he, from time to time, as wealthy people do, will make sort of charitable donations or like back a cause or whatever.
I mean, you're welcome to do what you want with it. I, for one, wouldn't turn down even a share of the reward. Just don't expect him to do more than display it as a collector.
Well, I think he could be convinced. Doesn't strike me as a very bad man.
Welcome to try.
So, Brad, like, what would I know about unicorns? Like, this unicorn said they went to battle with a sorcerer. Do unicorns do that?
Well, it depends on the situation. So unicorns are, I think this is fairly common knowledge about unicorns are a very like sort of known creature. Sort of like vampires in that regard. You don't really need to make a check necessarily. They are like celestial creatures, envoys of the gods, sort of sent from the heavens. Typically either to like reward the like service and fealty of a particularly kind-hearted paladin, or sometimes they like protect sacred lands from evil influence. You haven't really heard any stories about like unicorns like going on crusades, but theoretically, if a unicorn was in service to some sort of paladin or something of the likes, it wouldn't really be beyond the realm of possibility that one would be sort of ride into battle against an evil sorcerer, as it were.
Okay. Well, I suppose, like, as we're still resting a little bit, I'll put my hand back on the unicorn statue and I'll say, let's see. Primara, may I ask you something?
He says, "You may, if I might ask something of you in return."
Of course.
Go on.
And I'll say, this sorcerer that you battled against these many years ago, who was it? Why did you fight?
And there's a moment of like pause before the voice sort of echoes in your head again, and it sort of says, "It has been a countless number of years, frozen in this state as I am, my memory grows hazy. I do not remember his name, but I know that he was seeking to call forth a great darkness onto the realm. I believe he was attempting to open a rift to the abyss, or was it the Nine Hells? I can't remember, but I know it was quite evil.
Does this sound familiar?
Not in like any like history that you would be familiar with.
Me neither, I expect then.
Yeah, no.
And I suppose like I'll follow up and say it's like, and why did you fight him? Did someone take you there?
He says, I rode into battle along with my companion, or was it something else? I can't quite remember, but I feel a kinship, a deep void left in my heart.
I see. Well, thank you. What did you want to ask me?
He says, I know not what you are capable of, but you seem resourceful enough to rescue me from the confines of that malicious place. I ask of you this, please, though I might not have much in the way of a reward to promise, find a way to free me from this prison, and I will do whatever favor I can to assist you in kind.
Well, we were actually just discussing that. Truth of the matter is, we were hired by a man called Mert to retrieve you. I'm not sure if he knows of your true nature, although he is quite a resourceful man. I think that if we were to present your true nature to him and and you were to speak with him, then he might be able to lift the curse.
And this Mert, do you think he is someone that could be trusted?
Well, I've only had a brief encounter with him, but from his reputation and the meeting that I had, and the company he keeps, I say, like, sort of thinking of Rainier, he doesn't seem like an entirely malicious person. I believe if he were to be enlightened as to your true nature, then I think that he would see fit to try and help you.
And, yeah, the voice sort of says, perhaps then it is worth an attempt, though it is not like I can resist being taken wherever you so will.
Hmm. Very well. And I sort of turn to the boys. All right, break's over. Clap, clap. Let's kind of move
They
on.
sort of stand up like, this is, it's not gonna talk to us again, is it?
Maybe.
It's kind of creepy. Not gonna
Primara,
lie. It's kind of like picking it up.
Primara's not had much company. I'm sure you can handle a little conversation. Should we say, like, since we've been waiting around for a while, maybe Morton's character shows up?
Sure.
Welcome, Bassic.
Stumble out of the closest bar.
Bassic, you smell.
Yeah,
Bassic, you smell like the bar.
Oh man. Yeah, Bassic somehow manages to track you down with his, I don't know, superior chef's scent smelling capabilities. Also, he's a tabaxi, so I don't know, probably could smell you across the city. So yeah, you track them down, having kind of had enough time to grieve for your dearly departed friend, and you see them now, sort of in the middle of the street. A couple of new people whom you do not recognize because I don't think you were actually introduced because you were kind of locked away in the kitchen. So you see a couple of people that you don't recognize. One is this like really tall, sort of like well dressed Goliath, who is currently with Sir Reginald lifting what appears to be a unicorn statue through the streets. And then the other, I will allow Elise to just give you a brief introduction of her character.
I don't remember what. Sorry, I'll be right back.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll save that for later then. But yeah, so Basic, you see Valerie and the others kind of making their way through the streets.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just follow a little bit behind.
He's stalking
Are
us.
you trying to be like hidden, or are you just like following behind them?
Not like hidden per se, like not like hiding behind boxes, but I'm trying to, stay a little bit away from eyesight.
Okay, so you are trying to be a little bit like stealthy then.
Yeah,
All right, go ahead and make a stealth check then.
sure.
You're good at these. I say, knowing that you'll roll a 2.
Such confidence. Okay,
An
I think
11.
that is more.
Oh god, that's
than-
actually.
I don't think that. I don't think anybody's passive perception beats that. So yeah, you kind
Nope.
of shadow them at a distance. They are blissfully unaware of your presence behind them. So you guys make your way sort of down further into the sea ward. I'll just pick a random place. I don't think it's actually like a specific location, so just somewhere in the seaboard, where you walk up to this sort of large manor estate, sort of fenced in by this elaborate-looking wrought iron fence, and you can see that it is a quite the.
Is there like a?
Hmm?
Is there like a magic mouth intercom?
No. So you can see there's basically like there's this big sort of like fence. The front like fence doors are just like open. There's like a couple of guards like standing attention, and as you like approach dragging this statue, one of them sort of like looks to the other and sort of says, "Don't know who you are, but we were told to expect somebody bearing this statue at some point. So, can you roll me a D100?"
D100 coming
Yes.
right up. Served hot and fresh just for you.
And he says, unfortunately, the master's not in right now, but he gave us instructions that you are, feel free to bring that statue to the trophy room, where it has its rightful pedestal, and he shall send the funds along your way in due time. He is, of course, a man of his word.
And I'll sort of like say to the guard, it's like, well, I was really hoping that Mert would be here for the statue to be presented. There's apparently more to its nature than was initially, I think, known by any party.
I sort of like look at you a bit, kind of like up and down. He sort of says, I am sure that you are being honest about this, but it is a little bit above my, responsibilities, to be frank. And he says, I was simply told to deliver the message. You may deliver the statue and perhaps bring up any airs or grievances you have at a later date with Mert. I am sure that he will be in contact with you again.
Let's see here. Give me a second. My insight. I do have proficiency in insight. I mean, could I insight him? Like, does it sound like he thinks Mert will like get in contact with us again, or is he just kind of saying this to like, get the situation over and done with because he can't be bothered?
I mean, I'm not gonna make you like roll. He just seems like a guard who's like trying just to do his job, and he doesn't necessarily want to like deal with things that aren't his jobs.
Fair enough. Well, I'll say then. Well, when will the master return then? I would prefer to have this situation dealt with in person before I'm to hand over the statue. It's
He
quite a
just sort of like
sensitive topic that needs to be discussed.
look at each other and then back at you and sort of says, I'm afraid that Master Mert's appearances at this place are rather few and far between. We cannot say when he will be returning. He's a busy man and spends much of his time elsewhere.
Ah! Hmm. Suppose I'll look over at Arya and say, what do you think?
Sorry, I missed the beginning of this.
Oh yeah, Mert's not here. The guard
Okay.
says, just take the statue to the trophy room and leave it there, and then Mert will send the funds to us. But
By
I'm
the way,
like, fine.
I'm standing right behind you as well.
What, you've moved up now?
No. The thing is, when you moved up to the garden, I've moved up behind you, so it's just standing right behind you.
Yeah, at some
I don't
point
think
you
I've-
like suddenly realize that like because he's not like he's in the open now, so there's like no way you could hide. So like you're distracted by the guard, and as soon as there's like a lone conversation and you go to turn to like Arya to ask her, all of a sudden you are startled as Badzik is just standing right there behind you.
Have you been following us the whole time?
It's been like 20 minutes now.
Yeah,
15.
at least if you're back now, I guess if you could just
Mhm.
yeah give him a brief description of your character, just real brief.
Pretty young, half elf, dressed like a fortune teller.
Fair enough. Well,
Spellbook strapped to my waist.
Well, when you look at my guy, just picture a snow leopard on 2 legs.
Fair enough.
Big
yeah,
ass
so,
furry cat guy.
Oh, Christ. Oh, yeah, so the situation. Mert's not here at the moment. The guard says, leave it in the trophy room. We'll send the money over later. But I'm like, but I kind of want Mert to be here so he can touch the statue. Like, yeah.
I'm also not sure if
Basically.
I would trust leaving it here without
Yeah.
getting the reward.
That's kind of what I was thinking. And it's like, I sort of sigh and I say, well then, I look to the guard. If you're able to pass on a message to me, you can pass one to your master when he's next around. And I'll say it's like, if you send word to us that he's here, then we'll deliver the statue to him personally, but I can't leave it here unattended because of the matter that needs to be resolved first. And then I'll like gesture to the boys to lift up the statue.
Yeah, they sort of
And now,
pick the statue back up. And the guards sort of like look to each other and just sort of shrug, and he says, well, we're in no position to stop you, I suppose. He says, I would caution you against going against the wishes of Master Mert. He is a rather influential person in the city, but if this is truly as desperate as you seem to think it is, perhaps he will be understanding.
I thank you. And I says, well, I'm sure this matter will be resolved nonetheless in a nice, calm, and civil manner. And I gesture to the boys and I say, all right, Troll Skull out to Troll Skull Manor, everyone.
But it's so far away. Can't we charter a coach or something?
That costs money.
Okay. So you begin the rather long and laborious process of dragging this statue through the city, basically traveling kind of like half the speed that you normally would. And so it takes you like a good like hour and a half to return to Troll Skull Alley, and you can see now that there's still some construction work going on across the street from your own abode, and you can see that as you're arriving, you see the 3 children sort of like playing out front in the streets, like running by and like waving as you're kind of like coming up to the entrance. And I think they like stop like seeing this like weird statue being dragged around, and like you see like one of them begins to like think about like asking a question before like another one like tags them, and they go like running off laughing, and yeah, so you like drag this statue over, and you're now standing outside of the entrance of the tap room.
Yep. All right, boys, up the stairs into the main lobby.
All right, so you're gonna bring it around back and go like up to the actual like sort of bedrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So they kind of groan as they begin the process of dragging this thing around. Are you gonna like go with them, or are you just gonna trust that they'll go off on their own and deliver it to where?
Well, I need to coordinate.
Oh, of course, yeah. So Valerie goes to supervise the work of dragging this statue, this heavy stone statue, up a
Little
rickety
to the
wooden
left.
set of stairs onto the dubiously dubiously
All right, when you put it that
stable
way, I'll put it on the
floors.
ground floor instead. We'll put it in the
Yes.
tap room.
Oh yes. Okay. So yeah, you go opening the door to the tap room, dragging the statue inside. As you arrive, you see that out of the corner of your eye, there are two figures sitting at a table inside of the room as you enter. One of whom you recognize. You see the sort of
Rainier?
like no. You see the sort of like tall, purple-skinned tiefling in butler's attire, sitting across the table from someone you do not recognize.
Someone I don't know.
Yes, this person who is sitting across from him is here somewhere in my handouts. There it is. You see what appears to be a rather gaudily dressed half-elven man with sort of like long, wavy blonde hair. He has what could be sort of described as sort of an entertainer's attire. And this sort of big, like, puffy shirt, striped shirt, this sort of, like, overcoat vest with, like, tassels on it. And he has, like, a lute, like, strung across his back. And as you're, like, opening the door and, like, dragging this statue in, he sort of, like, turns his head over to look at you. And Sheldrake sort of says, "Ah, my lady, you have returned."
Ah, yes, Sheldrake. And it says, "You'll be glad to know that we have retrieved a Celestine unicorn."
And he says,
And
"That
who's this
is
guest?
excellent news, my lady." And he says, "As for our guest, he is an associate of mine who wished to meet with you in regards to that investigation that we were asked to perform."
Ah, yes.
And he sort of
like-
stands up and gives like an elaborate bow. And he says, "The honor is all mine. I have heard much about you from Sheldrake." And he says, "My name is Davil Starsong." And he says, "It is I who had contracted you to investigate these terrible murders down in the Dockward on behalf of my associates and my dear friends."
Does this guy have a handout?
Yes. Edit so that it's not in just Sheldrake's, all players. Bam.
Davil Starsong. Oh, he's a handsome man. That's a handsome elf. Alright,
He's a half elf.
handsome half-elf. And I'll say, "Well, pleasure to meet you, Mr. Starsong." And I'll say, well, I didn't recall it being a contract. As far as Sheldrake described it, it was more of a friendly request.
And he says, "Well, it would seem as though Sheldrake was refraining from telling you all of the details of our little agreement, seeing as he did not wish to get you involved in our business, and I can see why that would be the case. However, things in the city are growing rather dangerous for all parties involved, and I think, well, there is safety in numbers, perhaps." And he says, "Regardless," and he says, "you need not know the full details of what was discussed, only that the job has been successful." And he says, "Now that we are aware of the assailant's identity, we can better protect against them." And he says, I came here for a couple of reasons. The first of which, and he sort of says, I believe will interest you. And he says, the man that you saved, and he says, the sailor, and he says, was, well, quite grateful to his saviors for, well, saving his life, as it were. And he says, he wished for me to pass along something of a reward. He said it was his life savings, and he thought that it should go to the ones that saved his life. After all, there would be no use for it had the worst come to pass. And you see, he sort of like reaches down, takes out this like small pouch, and like tosses it onto the nearby table, and it sort of scatters over, and the pouch is open, and you see a number of like gold coins sort of like spilling out from the pouch onto the table that is currently in front of you near the door. And he says, I'll save you the pleasure of counting it all up individually. It totals to 250 gold coins, a sizable reward. He says,
And she nods and says, "That's quite. So I wasn't expecting this, considering he was so drunk. Didn't think he'd even remember."
Well, he says, I made it a point that he remembered. And he sort of smiles and says, I also wish to offer my deepest condolences for the loss you faced in light of pursuing this mission. It was never our intention, but, well, there was danger to be had, we knew. He says, we did not think that this could be an unexpected outcome.
I nod. I say, yes, well, I suppose those are the risks. If I don't mind, you keep saying we. Is this some sort of organization that you're a part of?
And he sort of like nods, and he says, yes, a collective of sorts. And he says, we are merchants and tradesmen who have banded together to better survive in these dangerous climes. And he says, our influence is vast. We have members throughout all of the major settlements of the north. And he says,
Does this sound like Zentrum, Brad?
I mean, you can put two and two together for yourself if you'd like.
Well, Zentrum is just a traders guild, right? Yeah, that
at
makes
least
sense.
that's the common theory about them, like common knowledge
Yeah.
about them.
Oh, it's the traders. Yeah, like that would be like, oh, are you part of the Zentrum's trading guild?
And he sort of smiles and says, I see you've heard of us then. That'll make things a little bit more simple, I suppose. And he says, indeed. And he says, I oversee business deals and negotiations here in the city of Waterdeep. And he says, my colleagues who run this particular cell with me are in charge of the other various states of our business. And he says, I believe Sheldrake had a meeting with another of the members tomorrow. You see, Sheldrake sort of nods to this, but he's sort of like letting this you kind of like play out this conversation. And he says, that wasn't the only reason I came here, however. And he says, you have done a good job by us. And he says, and I was perhaps wondering if you would be interested in a few more favors for us in exchange for a suitable reward. I am told that you are of a need for money as of recently.
Valerie nods and say, well, yes, if you have work for us, we'd be happy to oblige, so long as it's nothing criminal or anything too nefarious.
And he sort of smiles and says, of course not. And he says, what I have in mind is a rather simple affair. And he says, there is a shop in the trades ward called Weird Bottles Concoctions. The gnome who runs it is a friend of ours named Schemo. He made some potions of mind reading for a client that especially requested them. Now, with this business between the, Xanathar's guild and the Pretenders riling up violence in the city, the Watch has quite the eye on me and my associates, even though we are innocent in this farce. And he says, we need somebody who's unaffiliated to make this delivery. We would like you to pick up the potions and deliver them to the God Catcher, one of the walking statues. There'll be a lady in a purple cloak waiting in a carriage. He says, you will give them to her. You will say nothing, and you can feel free to keep the tip.
Valerie nods. Okay. I might need that again. So, what's the shop called?
It's called
Weird Potions.
Weird Bottles Concoctions.
Weird Bottles Concoctions. And the owner is a gnome named...
Schemo. Skeemo.
Owner named Schemo. Alright. Has mind-reading potions that need delivered to... What did he say? It was like some sort of construct?
Yeah, so he said to deliver them to the God Catcher, which you would know is one of the enormous walking statues of Waterdeep. This one is located in the Castle Ward.
Right.
They are basically like these huge inanimate statues that the Blackstaff can basically will to life and like cause them to basically become animate to defend the city against powerful invaders, basically. But for the most part, they just sort of like sit there, like, and kind of do nothing. And people have built stuff around them.
And so we need to deliver it to the statue, and there'll be a woman in a purple cloak.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're delivering it to her, and she'll be near the statue.
And he sort of nods and says, the client shall be awaiting the delivery.
And allowed to keep the tip. Valerie nods and says, well, seems relatively straightforward. And says, I don't know why the guard are giving you lot the grief, though, over the gang violence. Doesn't sound like it has anything to do with the murder.
He says, it doesn't, but there are some thugs going around and abusing our good name to commit grave crimes. He says, something of a, you might say, schism has formed in our organization as of late.
Oh, how so?
Well, I don't really feel comfortable filling you in on all the details, but let us say that a pretender who claims to be a long dead member of the Zentarum has returned to life, apparently, and promises great wealth and power to those who assist him in taking back what is rightfully his. And a lot of idiots go along with it.
Or thinking. We kind of had an incident, with the mine. Like, Valerie will sort of nod and she'll say, I see. Well, far be it from me to pry into guild politics that aren't my own, but I can understand the trouble that would have arrived from a stolen identity such as this. Well, the job seems relatively simple enough, but I must ask, do you know how large the tip would be?
And he just sort of shakes his head. He says, I do not. He says, the arrangements were made through Schemo. I am not entirely privy to the details of the arrangement. He says, but I can say that this client is not some street urchin. They are well-to-do. He says, and you can look forward to a sizable recompense for the trouble.
I say, well, the job sounds fine to me, and I sort of look at, I suppose the two talkative party members that are here, and it says, does it sound okay to you two?
I have no problem.
Basic just nods.
Very well. And I turn back to Davil, and I say, very well. I'm sure this sounds like something that we could do, relatively straightforward. And I'll say, is there anything else that you need to inform us of, or should that be all?
Yeah, so he smiles, and he sort of says, excellent. I am expecting great things from you. And he says, this is an easy job, but should you accomplish it, perhaps we can work on something a bit more lucrative together. But in the meantime, no, that was all I came for. And he says, and I have some other clients to meet with, so I really must be going. My regards,
of course,
Sheldrake, and it is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And he says, I hope that we see more of each other in the near future. And with that, he gives another sort of elaborate bow and then kind of like
Oh
strides.
shit! Wait, like as he's leaving, like Val will have like, wait, hang on, 1 second, I almost forgot. What about the killer? He's still at large.
And you see, he sort of like turns his head back a bit, and you see like a smile on his face, and he says, "Not for long." And then he just sort of continues walking out the door.
Okay, guess they'll take care of that then. All right. I suppose I look at the big unicorn we have in the middle of the tap room now.
Yeah, it's just a big like unicorn statue. Yeah, so Sheldrake sort of like begins like standing up, and as he does, you see he's sort of like straining a little bit. Like you could tell just like looking at him, he's having a bit of like trouble. So as he stands up, you see he suddenly sort of like grabs at this like handkerchief that he has sort of tucked into his pocket and like sort of coughs a few times into it before like slipping it back into his pocket, and he sort of says, "So, my lady, I see that you were successful in retrieving the Celestite unicorn. Might I ask why it is that you have elected to bring it here and not to our client's abode?"
Well, we did. However, it appears that Mert was not present, and we kind of learned something about the statue. Apparently, it's a real unicorn.
A real what, milady?
A real unicorn. Apparently, it has been, well, she has been, I suppose, polymorphed, and has been for many years now. I don't think Mert is aware of her true nature. I was wanting for him to touch the unicorn and for them to converse so that he would realize her predicament, and maybe he'd be willing to try and break the curse. But he wasn't present, so I've left a message with the guards to inform me when he is present. We will take the unicorn back, and then I will inform him of the situation.
Yeah, so he sort of like
He says,
looks and like nods a couple of times, and he says, "Perhaps, my lady, those nightmares you've suffered recently have done more of an effect on your mental health than you have perhaps expected. Would you like me to draw out your bedroll a bit early tonight?"
oh, for goodness sake, Sheldrake, put your hand on the statue and you will see what I mean.
Yeah, so he sort of
She's
says,
telling the truth.
and he just sort of says, "Very well." And you see he makes like a couple of strides towards the statue, where you see he sort of like coughs a couple of more times, and then just sort of collapses on the ground, like coughing pretty like wildly into this handkerchief.
I run up to him and like pull a chair with me and like get him up on a chair.
Yeah, so as you like run over to assist, he like immediately is like putting up a hand. He's like, "No, I'm fine. Can you both make a perception check?"
There's gonna be blood in the handkerchief. Not Sheldrake.
Sheldrake has cancer. Perception check.
How good's your perception, Arya?
It's okay.
I mean, yeah, if you would like to also make one, it would be at disadvantage because you're like far away. But these two are like rushing up to like grab him immediately. Okay. Yeah, so I think Valeria, as like Bassic is kind of like helping him up into the chair. You notice like as he's like putting the handkerchief away, you do notice like this slight like very small like hint of like a red splatter in it, but he's like trying to like put it away and like hide it. And again, he's just sort of like waving his hand. He's like, "I assure you, I'm fine. Just strained by the recent exertions." Says, "And the unfortunate demise of our good friend Dricken has taken its toll. I need only a night's rest. Do not worry yourself over me."
I think Val would say it's like, I think you need more of a night's rest, Sheldrake, looking at what's in that handkerchief. You seem quite ill.
And he just sort of gives you this like
what's happening?
stern look, and he sort of says, "I assure you, milady, that my health will not impede my responsibilities.
I
However,
would grip my teeth a bit.
I do not think that I shall be able to accompany you on such strenuous activities for the near future.
Well, I suppose we can at least agree to that. Are you sure that you are not? Are you sure that you're okay? If you need to return to the manor, I'm sure my father would allow you to return, at least until you recover.
And he sort of shakes his head. I assure you, my lady, I am quite fine. Nothing that a good night's rest won't fix.
Well, very well. What time is it, Brad?
It's probably like the middle of the afternoon or so.
Right, okay. Not nighttime yet.
Not quite
And
nighttime.
it says, well, maybe you should get some rest then. And I sort of turn to the other two and I say, I think we have a delivery to make. I trust if anyone shows up, you'll be able to handle them until we get back.
Yeah, he sort of like nods and says, of course, I will see to any visitors should any arrive. And he says, and you would do well to make a good impression for Mr. Starsong. He is a rather influential figure in certain circles. It could be just the friendship you need to get this place up and running.
Of course. Delivering some potions doesn't sound too dangerous after all. I'm sure we can manage it. I'll sort of turn to the other two and it's like, should we head out?
Certainly.
Sure, let's go.
Yep. I suppose as we like exit the manor as well, we're walking down the street, I'll sort of turn to Vassic and I'll say it's maybe keep an eye on Sheldrake. If the situation gets any worse, then I know he says he's fine, but we might just have to tell him it's that he's not at some point.
He's not fine. It's really not fine. Like, he always had a bad leg and hard to walk, but he ain't doing pretty good now.
Well, like I say, if the situation continues to deteriorate, we might have to take some action.
Well,
Wait! No! Before we go and do the potions, Brad, I want to go buy an adventurer's kit. We need that rope.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely just like go to the market. You say like spend an hour going to the market and like buying whatever like basic adventure kits. Like
I just see the 50 feet hempen rope hanging on my backpack. Going like,
You had rope. He was the one with rope
all the time. Yeah.
Oh no! Oh my god. Oh, by the way, that 250 gold, I suppose we actually need to divvy that up, don't we? Let's see, there's 5 of us. Yeah, that's 50 gold each. So Morton, you get 50 gold. Arya, you get 50 gold, even though you just joined.
I had nothing to do with it.
I look at you and I go like, "Where's your share? You still owe me 70."
Okay, Arya doesn't get any gold. Neither does Mike, actually. So it's the 3 of us. Hang on.
Hey,
Slash R.
I had to lug that statue all across the town. I think I deserve a cut of something. It's tiring work.
83.33. So someone gets 84 and the rest get 82. Alright. So I will...
I'll
Okay.
take 82.
Alright, so you take 82. And then... Brad, if you could mark on Sir Reginald's sheet that he gets 82. And then I'll get 84 and I still owe you... I still owe you 40 gold.
It's 83, 83, and 84.
Oh, okay. You get 83, Morton. So Reginald gets 83. I get 84. And I'll say to you, I promise I will pay you back the moment we're out of this very depressing situation. Please, I just need more time.
I don't blame you.
God, it's like a loan shark. Just throw me that money, kid. Just need more time.
At least I'm not knocking your kneecaps out.
I know. Alright, but yeah, I'm not kidding, by the way. I'm gonna buy that Explorer's Pack for 10 gold. Like, we're not having that happen again.
What happened?
Like, Sir Reginald almost suffocated because he got stuck in a pit full of gas and we couldn't get him out because none of us had a rope.
We had to use a
That's-
table.
Mhm.
Well, that sounds awfully depressing.
Yep.
And not a single person has rope is like the most common thing to have.
Yes, Morton. We all realized that when it happened. Okay.
Oh, man.
The worst
Oh,
part is I
Christ.
saved them from falling in the first time, and they just went right back in.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, man.
It's like that gif of that guy rescuing the deer out of the pool, and then it runs
It-
back into the pool immediately.
Or the
Yep.
the guys
Right.
pulling the goat out of the big old crack in the ground.
Yeah,
which
then
just
the goat
bounces
jumps
off,
back.
falls back in. Oh,
Sounds about right.
good shit.
Christ.
Yeah, so if you want
Alright.
to spend like an hour or so just like, going to the markets and buying that, you totally can. Just add it
Yep,
to the sheet. All right, and it sounds to me then that the next course of action is going to be just immediately going to make this delivery.
Yep. So we're gonna head to Weird Balls Concoctions, owned by a gnome named Schemo.
Weird balls?
Weird bottles.
That's more like
Weird
it.
balls.
Don't bring
I
my
like
weird
weird
balls
balls.
into this.
I forgot
Nobody talked about your weird balls, my man.
Yakuza on the map. Looking trades word. Yes. So you make your way down to the trades ward to the location you were given. I don't think it's got any special. No, it doesn't have a special marker, so it's here somewhere. It's in the trades ward.
There we go.
So, you arrive outside of a rather small looking shop. You can see in the windows there are a number of vials and bottles of various different sizes of very strange colored liquids, purples and blues and reds, just sort of on display in the window of the store. And you see there's a sign hanging over it that is basically just like a bottle like dripping a single like drop of some sort of like green liquid basically like painted on this sign. There's no like name written on it or whatever. This is like sort of ye old picture sign for
Yeah.
an apothecary or whatever. But you assume
type
that
of,
this is
Yeah, okay. What type of like area are we like looking at? Is this like a dangerous area?
it's not like it's not dangerous per se. Like it's a trades ward, it's like a busy place where like tradesmen and merchants and stuff have their shops. So it's not like, scummy part of town, but this shop is sort of in like a bit of a back alley kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys. If we get shivved, at least the graveyard's right there.
Oh man.
All right. So I guess I'll like just step in.
All right, yeah. So as you open the door, it's sort of like you hear this like little ding-ding. It's like a bell over the door kind of rings, and you see across the way inside the shop there are a number of sort of like shelves basically that are just lined with all sorts of bottles, again just of different sizes and different colored liquids, all of them very strange, some of them like swirling and smoking in the bottles, some of them have like weird almost unidentifiable objects like floating inside of them. And you see sitting at a counter like across the way, basically at the other end of this room, there is what appears to be a like short figure with a with what appears to be like a broadsheet basically in his hands, and he sort of like puts it down and like turns. It's like, all right, who's there? And you see a gnomish fellow with sort of soot-stained skin, wearing rather nice attire. It seems he's well-to-do as far as merchants go, and he looks basically like that.
Oh wow, he looks pretty damn scummy. All right, so I'll like look at him and then say, "You're Schemo, I presume."
And he says, and I don't know you, and you look like you're lost.
Not quite. Just where I need to be. I'll say, I was sent here by a man named what was it? Yeah, Davil. Yeah, I was sent here by a man named Davil. Apparently you had some potions that needed delivered.
And he sort of like raises an eyebrow and he says, so you're the poor, accomplices he's asked to make this delivery. And he just sort of says, I have them ready back here. He says, you give me a moment, I can retrieve them. And he sort of hops down from his stool, and you see he disappears behind the like tall counter as he goes like walking out into the back, and you hear like his footsteps going into a back room as he's kind of like mumbling back there. He's back there for like a minute or two before you hear his footsteps like coming back up, and he sort of pulls himself up onto his like high stool, and you see he sets what appears to be like a latched wooden like coffer basically on the counter in front of him, and kind of like taps the top of it, and he says, "Our Lady's order is here, safe and sound. You can inspect the package if you would like."
Suppose I'll like just pop open the lid to make
Yeah.
sure that there's definitely potions in there.
And yeah, so popping it open, you see basically what appears to be like this like sort of silk-lined coffer interior, sort of like black velvet silk, and 4 like separate compartments, inside of which are 4 individual bottles of this sort of like shimmering gossamer silver liquid.
Is it possible to tell by a look that they're potions of mind reading, or?
Probably not. Like usually these kind of things, you kind of have to like taste test them a little bit, to like get it truly.
I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, sampling the merchandise might not be the.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'll say, well, there's definitely 4 potions, and I'll like close the lid and I'll say, well, consider the job done. We'll get these delivered straight away. Good day to you.
He says, I bet you will. Good day to you.
All right, I head off. I'll say, all right, let's get these delivered. I'll make our way.
So nobody's questioning the fact that he was about to say poor sods when we're about to take on this job, right? No? Okay, let's go.
Sorry,
Are you saying that in...
did you say these are in? A box?
Yes. I say that in character, yeah.
Yep. Like, as we're walking, I'll say, it's like, did he? I just thought he was stuttering a bit. You worry too much, Basic.
Considering the death count of this group, I mean, I should worry.
What kind of container are these in?
It is in what appears to be like a small sort of like latched coffer, maybe like a foot in length and maybe like half that in height. And inside there were like 4 little like individually made compartments that are sort of lined in this black velvet silk. This is a small box, basically.
And just thoroughly investigate the box, make sure there's hidden compartments or anything.
Sure, make an investigation check. You kind of like grab the box and begin
Nope.
looking it over. Yeah,
a box, guys.
As best as you can tell, there's no sort of like hidden compartments or like a false bottom or anything like that. There's nothing hidden underneath the potions. No, like you like begin like picking them up in like sequence. Maybe like the potions, like picking them up in a certain way will like trigger something. But no, nothing really strange about the box. It just appears to be a normal box.
Can't be
Listen, guy. What was that?
can't be too careful.
Of course. But we're like working for like a well-established trading guild. It's all about the name with these people. They wouldn't try and short us or lie to us. Why would they? All right, so let's see. We have to go to the God Catcher now in the castle ward.
They wouldn't do
Yes,
anything
sir,
bad.
which you would know is right. Bam. There.
Is it like a landmark? I take it.
Yes, it is a very like large and impressive looking landmark.
Mm-hmm.
One of the sort of major. It's like a very tourist destination kind of thing, right? With, the walking statues of Waterdeep. Come see this, buy the souvenirs. Visit the gift shop, etc., etc.
Oh shit! There's a gift shop. Do they have like God Catchers like action figures that are like animated by the wizards from Blackstaff? Like, do they have merch?
You probably.
Oh, well, that sounds rad as hell.
So this is basically like the fucking Statue of Liberty of a fucking Blackstaff Academy.
Yeah,
right?
but it's the Statue of Liberty from the Ghostbusters movie where it like moves around and like beats up a giant marshmallow man.
Of course, wouldn't be without.
Everyone
As the
remembers
prophecy
the
foretold.
yeah. Everyone remembers the big marshmallow man attack on the city of Waterdeep
Yes, of course.
centuries ago.
Centuries ago.
But you don't.
Um, yeah. So you begin making your way to the just past the market north to the God Catcher's statue, which I think I have a brief sort of description, basically just of kind of what it looks like as you're arriving here. So you see, this one's probably like the most the famous of the walking statues, because it has this sort of it's very close to the market, and it has this dramatic pose. You see, it is a statue of a well-muscled but impassive male human. Its leg is actually sunk to the hip in the street. And its left hand and right foot are pressed against the ground as if trying to pull itself out. And its right arm, you see, is raised towards the sky, and above its palm is floating a sphere of stone. Its gaze is looking up towards the sphere, and you see that the pattern of basically like bird droppings that have kind of landed around its eyes gives it the appearance of weeping.
I feel like there's a story here as to why it's stuck in the ground.
Yes, you basically the story is that long ago the statue sort of kind of went out of control and began a rampage, and then the Blackstaff basically cast this spell that caused it to sink into the ground and then like deanimated it. So it's like partially sunk it into the ground. You also know basically that basically all around the statue, sort of like climbing up its chest and sort of circling up its like raised arm, are a number of tenement buildings that have been like erected and are a tenement known as the God Catcher, where like people like live and work basically. And there is there's the owner, the landlord, is this like sorcerer who basically like lives in the floating sphere and basically is rarely seen from.
That is so rad, but they've just made buildings on this statue.
I wonder. If
Oh Christ!
I think I don't know if I have the actual like. I think this one actually has like a picture handout, but I don't think that I have it because it probably was in one of the folders that I deleted. But anyways, yeah, it's a very cool statue.
I'm Google imaging. Oh my God! What? That looks so cool.
Share with a group.
Yeah. Look at that! It is a lot bigger than what I thought it was, to be
Goddamn.
They're
honest.
huge. Yeah, they're massive statues.
Oh, here's a different one.
Yeah, there's a picture in
I don't
the
know.
book.
I think the second one might be the more accurate one.
Kinda, yeah. The buildings aren't like that, like constructed up, but yeah, basically like that.
Alright, cool. Man, that is so cool. Alright, anyway, yes. So we
Yes.
make our way over to the statue. Any lady with purple veils?
So why don't you make for me? Actually, what is your passive perception modifiers? I don't have your tokens on here.
12.
Are you asking everyone?
Yeah, everybody, because you're all
15.
together. 15. Not bad. Basic.
Mine's no better.
Okay. So I think as you're all looking around, just through like the crowds, basically around this area, a lot of tourists and stuff, kind of like pointing at the statue and like oohing and eyeing as they kind of like look it over. Arya, you see basically there is what appears to be a rather nice looking carriage that is kind of parked out front of like one of the stairways that kind of like leads up to the tenements of the God Catcher. And in the back seat, you notice that there is a woman who seems to be sort of scanning the crowd, like looking around in this sort of like hooded purple cloak that kind of hides her face. And she seems to be sort of like looking around, like waiting for something in the backseat of this coach. And the door is like open, basically. The back door is open. And there's like a couple of guards like keeping people at bay.
Believe that's who we're looking for.
I'll look to where she's gesturing and I'll say, ah yes, that must be it. Well, let's go make this delivery then.
All right, so you begin pushing through the crowd, making your way up, and you see as you get closer, yeah, she has these sort of like two, like huge, like burly bodyguards. One of them's like a half orc dressed in this sort of like very tight-fitting suit. The other one's it's like a tall like human, probably like a Alaskan or something of the lakes, sort of tall, well built, very Norse almost in appearance. And as you begin to like move up to like approach her, like the orc basically like strong arms you, and he says, where do you think you're going?"
I like, I'm holding the box probably, and I'll say, "Delivery for the lady."
And you see he's about to like turn as if like maybe to like talk to her, and you hear a voice from inside the carriage. It says, "Come forward. Place the box in the carriage."
I do so.
Can we actually see her?
So looking in, you can tell that she is purposely sort of like turning her face away so as like not to like reveal who she is. But she has this like sort of very fancy looking like hooded purple cloak obscuring sort of her face. You can see from her hands, she's not wearing gloves. You can see from her hands she has like dark skin, and kind of has very very nice attire, very obviously like a noble of some sort, not just your average like run of the mill person. Some sort of
I
noble.
know it's a bit of a punt, but like Valerie is a noble, so I imagine she's attended events and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Would I be able to tell from her voice and just like the carriage and stuff like that if I might have an inkling of who it could be?
You can make, we'll say, an intelligence check with disadvantage, just due to how much she's trying to like conceal her her presence.
That's fair enough. Let's have a look. A 9.
Oh, unfortunate.
Oh.
No, so you could tell like she's going to great lengths to like obscure her. She might even actually be like putting on a voice just to like add to that extra layer. To like obscure her identity. So as you like scooch closer and place the coffer into the carriage, you don't really get like heads or tails of who she is, other than the fact that she is obviously a noble, just by the way that she kind of carries
Yeah.
herself. You see,
Be right back to
she reaches down with a foot and slides the coffer over to like in front of her like view. You see, reaches down, flips the latch, looks inside quickly, closes it, and says, "Everything looks to be in order." And then you see she quickly sort of reaches into her a pocket in her cloak, pulls out this like black silken pouch, and sort of tosses it at you. Before like whistling to the guards to begin to like kind of very hastily like push you away and like close the door. And before you even know it, the carriage like peels off, and you're like left sitting there like alone. Basically, people kind of like milling about around you.
Well, she must have been in a hurry. No matter. And I suppose I'll like quickly count up the coins.
Boy, that does sure seem to be what a noble's idea of being inconspicuous would be, isn't it?
You're telling me.
Yeah, looking inside, you see basically there's not a lot of coins in there. It's a small number at first when you like glance inside. You expected like a big old pouch brimming with gold, but as you pour them out into your hand, you realize that what you're holding are platinum coins. 25 of them in total.
Oh, easiest 250 gold I've ever made, and it will be no problems arising from this whatsoever. Alright, 25 platinum, eh? Well, let's see. There's 3 of us, a nice divisible number. Oh, look at that.
It's the exact same division you just did.
I know, right?
Just minus the 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be 8, 8, and 9.
8, 8, and 9, right.
Yep.
Well, let's see then.
I love
I
that
guess-
you divide up all the money amongst everybody instead of just like collecting it into a tavern renovation fund. So it'll be much harder to figure out how much money you guys have total later on.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking if we like that might be a good idea to do at some point, but that's a conversation for another time. I can't be bothered doing it now. Well, I guess like I'll give I guess Arya gets 9, Bassett gets Arya gets 8, Bassett gets 8. I guess no, so I'll give the Bassett 9, I'll take 8 because I still owe him some money. But I think Morton's BRB, so I'll like
Sure.
tell him that when he gets back.
Yeah, we'll let him know later.
It's multiplied my current money by 10.
You have money again. Congratulations.
This pearl was expensive.
Yep. All right, then. Well, after that's been dealt with, and I just like quickly hand out some coins in the middle of the street. I suppose like she'd say something. All right, well, 2 jobs in one day. Very productive of us, if I do say so myself. I suppose since it was late afternoon when we set out, and it's probably getting late now, so she'd say maybe we should head back and retire for the night.
Yeah, it's getting close to nightfall at this point.
Yeah, you go on ahead. I'll meet you back there.
Sure. Let's go, Bassic.
Sure thing.
Da,
So
da,
yeah, you
da,
and
da.
Bazik return, and make your way back. I guess in the meantime, Arya, why are you hanging back?
I would like to get in touch with my contacts and just relay all the information of what happened,
Okay. Very well. Then you do
being
so.
as thoroughly descriptive as possible.
Very
The
well.
spy in our ranks. Oh no.
And then I'll head back.
Everybody's a spy. Okay, yeah. So you all eventually return. Arya arriving a little bit later than everybody else. When you return to the tap room, you see basically Sheldrake is waiting there. You see he sat at a table with a sort of open book in his hand, and you see the sort of 3 little sort of orphan kids sitting cross-legged on the floor, and he appears to be like reading them a story. And as you open the door, he sort of like closes the book, and he says, "And that, I believe, shall be all for tonight. It is past your
No!
bedtime."
Could you have taken another 5 minutes to get home?
And then the children all sort of go like, "Aww," and like Sheldrake sort of ushers them out of the room.
Yep. And Valerie would nod and say it's like, that's very nice of you, Sheldrake. Reminds me of when you did that when I was a kid.
And yeah, he sort of nods and says, "It is the least that I can do for them." He says, "So, was your mission successful?"
Oh yes, we delivered the potions without any issue. Got paid. Hopefully we can get these renovations going as soon as possible.
Yes, indeed. I do so forward to looking to dwelling in an abode that does not drip water on my head in the middle of the night.
Well, after we met, he says, well, hopefully Mert will be available for us to discuss the unicorn at length as soon as possible. And if we're still entitled to the 1,000 gold, then after the foundation is done, we can do the roofs. And the floors. And the walls.
It is quite the laundry list of things that are in need of repair.
Yes, very much so. But I like to think we're making progress. Like, I think it's been like a few days now. Like, how are we looking in terms of crap? Like, has most of the crap been like funneled out by like the guild of like street cleaners?
Yeah, I'd say like a good portion of it. There's just not much left in the way of just like junk to get rid of. So at this point, it's pretty well like emptied out to where like work can begin in earnest.
Yeah, I suppose we'll try and empty out the last of the junk as much as we can, Ben. Just before we go to bed.
Sure. Yeah. So then I guess the other question I have, Arya. I mean, you.
Yes.
Having not been part of this original sort of situation that these folks have found themselves in, they don't really have anywhere else to go. But you presumably have somewhere that you like live in the city. I guess, would you like to stay here with them in the rundown tavern, or are you going to like return to that abode for the night?
I have no idea where it would be. How far?
Judging by like your sort of station, I would guess, like on kind of like what your mother does. Probably somewhere in like the field ward, so it's not like super far. But it's it's like a decent like 30 minutes to an hour, and it is pretty late.
Yeah, I'll probably head to my.
Sure. So you head on home.
I shall return in the morning.
I would think that Oliver is going to stay here.
Yes, all of our.
He he doesn't really say anything about why, but he's like, I'll stay the night.
That's fine. Valerie's fine with it.
Maybe once the roof's not leaking, I'll consider staying.
Yeah,
Listen,
the rooms.
The roofs are the next priority after the foundation.
All right. So you.
Oh yeah,
all...
Morton, you got like you got 9 platinum. 8 was your yeah, 8 was your share, and one of them is 10 gold I owe you, so I owe you 40 gold. I owe you 30 gold now. 30.
Uh-huh.
Hang off in installments. You don't no interest.
Oh man.
You say that.
Anyways, you all head to your respective domiciles for the night, and go to bed, and you wake up the next morning, rested and refreshed.
The next morning Morton, would you prefer your +1 bow or like a +1 sword or whatever?
I'll stick with a bow.
Alright, your bow is now +1. +1 damage, +1 to hit. Congratulations.
It was that last time I played as well, so it's no
No,
congratulations.
well, nothing has changed.
Congratulations. Everything's the same.
Congratulations.
Christ. Good old big man Tyrone. He got coronavirus, you know, but he's fine.
Anyways, yeah. So you all gather in the tap room. Arya, you return in the morning after this long rest. And yeah, you are all gathered in the tap room. As you're like gathered there, having your like morning strategic meeting or whatever, there are a number of children sort of like darting in between you and like through your feet. I guess to describe them more to Elise that has not seen them before, there appears to be 3 presumably orphaned children that have taken up residence in this tavern and are currently being looked after by the von Bourbons here. 3 of them in total, two boys and 1 girl. There is the oldest of them appears to be a young tiefling boy. His name is Jenks, I believe. Yes. No, he is Squidly. And he's sort of like dressed in I guess you guys like got them a little bit nicer clothes than the rags that they had before. So he's probably like dressed in, commoner's clothes or whatever. And he has this like obviously like fake eye patch that he's wearing and like a wooden sword at his belt. You see that there is the other boy who appears to be the youngest of them is a dark-skinned boy with sort of like sort of shaved back hair. He's a little bit overweight, judging by his appearance. But he seems to be similarly sort of like he has like a little wooden sword at his belt. And then the last one is a girl. She's like the middle child of them all. She's sort of like a little bit like tall and lanky for her age, sort of like long raven black hair, and her name is Nat, and she is a mute girl. She cannot speak, but communicates with sign language to her friends.
Cute kids. Are they yours?
Yeah. What?
Nice.
I have returned.
Welcome back.
What are you giggling at?
She asked if they're. She said, "Cute kids, are they yours?" And I replied, "Yeah."
Yeah,
Low.
I was just describing the orphan children for her.
Yeah.
They're playing
Big
around.
furry
Well,
guy.
Well, Val, would say it's like no, not even related to us actually. They were actually here when I suppose you could say acquired the property. And well, I would have kind of felt bad if we just kicked them out. So she kind of shrugs and says, "They just kind of stayed."
Yeah, and they sort of like do some like odd jobs and chores at Sheldrake sort of assigns them around the place to help clean up and whatnot. But otherwise, they just sort of go about their business, playing out in the streets somewhere and return at night. Yeah, and as I say that, they kind of like run out the door to go do whatever it is they do during the day.
Yeah, I sort of like. I was like, I wonder what they do during the day, though.
You'll have to find out during the side story mission where you all play them. No, just
Oh God. Oh Christ.
the
Well,
last time we had to play like orphan children characters, it was not very. Didn't end very well. Actually, it ended pretty well, but it was yeah. Anyways, Curse of Strahd, everybody.
mhm.
So yeah, you're all gathered here in the tap room. And I think as you're sort of like considering what it is that you would wish to do, you all notice that suddenly like something movement catches like the corner of your eye, and you see basically this what looks like a bird like fly through one of the like broken windows of the tap room. And you sort of like do a double take and look as it like flies through and like goes to like land on the table, and you realize it's not like an actual bird, but it's basically like an origami like folded up paper bird that it was like flying through the window and like lands on the table and then like begins to like unfold itself.
Oh, that's a neat magic trick.
I'll start folding it back.
As I go like pick up the letter, I turn to R and it's like, can you do that?
I don't believe so.
It'd be pretty cool if you could.
I'll look
I'll
into
read
it.
what it. Thanks. What does it say, Brad?
Yeah, it simply says, my guards tell me that you have retrieved the statue, but wished not to drop it off without my presence. It says, I am busy, but they said you had something to discuss. I have enclosed tickets to the opera tonight at the Light Singer Theater in the Sea Ward. Please meet me at intermission. Private box C. Formal attire is required for admittance. And you see folded up amidst the parchment, there are basically like 5 tickets to this opera tonight.
Interesting. Formal wear is required. Sounds like a corset to me.
I mean, not necessarily.
Suppose we'll have to go shopping.
That costs money, though. And I sort of like look to Sheldrake and it's like, Sheldrake, how much formal attire can you manage with what we've got?
He sort of like thinks for a moment. Says, I believe I can make some hasty repairs to your tattered attire, milady. It should suit well enough for the purposes.
I look down at my clothes, going like, I mean,
As for
formal
the
enough.
rest, I will see what I can dredge up in the markets.
If you could, Sheldrake. And say, I'm just try not to exert yourself too much.
I appreciate your concern, milady, but I assure you, I am fine.
All right. Well, with that, like Valerie would say, it's like, well, at least we have plans for the evening. I sort of look at the tickets. Like, are they like full admission tickets? Like, could I have an evening at the opera if I wanted to? Because he only wants to speak to us during intermission.
Yeah, I mean they aren't. They're not like box tickets, right? They're just like general admission tickets. But I mean, even then, like it's mostly nobles who go to these things. Obviously, given the dress code of it. But they are like admit one to this opera for the whole shebang. It's not just like you're allowed to enter the theater to talk to somebody.
Yeah, I'll sort of like Val would sort of look to the rest and it's like, oh wow, these are quite expensive tickets. And I'll admit, the idea of relaxing for an evening at the opera does sound quite appealing. would anyone be willing to actually go for the whole thing, or are you just
No.
wanting to go for the meeting?
I think it sounds lovely.
For the record,
Wonderful.
the tickets also state basically the opera play that is going to be put on, and it is titled "The Fall of Tiamat." It is
Oh my god!
It is described as an opera that is sung entirely in giant, that describes the evil dragon queen's defeat so many years ago.
I don't know,
That makes
giant.
it up.
Oh damn! Like, okay, man, we never did play like Rise of Tiamat, and I don't think we ever will.
I know Dwarvish.
Oh Christ! Well, I think like Valerie would say, like, Basic's just like no, and she's like, oh come on, Basic, it's about an event that just took place a few years ago, the fall of Tiamat. Come on, it'll be about dragons and fighting.
Fusrota.
Uh-huh.
Come now, like you might not get another chance to go to an opera like this.
No, I would prefer not to.
Suit yourself. Well, nonetheless, and I'll like put the tickets like in my breast pocket or whatever. Actually, no, I'll give them to Sheldrake to hang on to them for safekeeping. Don't want to like get
course, my
fall in a
lady.
sewer pipe or something. And then I'll sort of say it's like well, anyway, I don't think we have any jobs lined up at the moment.
No, I mean
No.
nothing so far. No, I don't think you've done. I mean, other than that that guard duty job, if it's even still available.
Guard, we're not doing that guard duty job.
How many times must we tell you we're not doing that one?
It's there, guys. It's right there. The guard duty job.
So much time for such
honest
little
pay
money.
for an honest work.
We're adventurers. There's nothing honest about us. Oh Christ. Alright, yes, Rainier did just send us some work, so I doubt he has anything more. I'm meeting with Mert tonight. I can't really get the guilds to like come do anything more for us either. And I sort of looked to the other, I sort of like looked at Arya, and it's like well, Arya, you're quite new here. I don't suppose you have anyone that you know that might have any paying work available?
Do I?
Not off the top of your head. I mean, your associates and like affiliates probably have like jobs to do, but you're not sure if any of them are like suitable for these people in particular.
Mhm.
And they're more of like a will approach you kind of deal, you
Mhm.
know.
Nothing comes to mind.
I suppose it was a bit of a punt. Well, I'm not really sure. Oh! Like, she'll have a bit of a light bulb moment. What would you two say about one more trip to Blue Alley? There was that sword.
Oh, I totally forgot, by the way. Actually, today, the 21st of Elent, is actually a city holiday.
I'm sorry, is Blue Alley closed because it's a public holiday?
No, I'm just
I was actually thinking the same thing.
I'm just saying that basically there's a big like festival going on today, the festival of Bright Swords, where basically it's sort of like a military parade kind of thing. You know, mock battles, demonstrations of martial skill through the streets. You know, competitions between the various wards, that sort of thing. You know, there's a show lined up basically, like towards like the late afternoon where the like city's Griffin cavalry are going to basically do like a Blue Angel show over the city, except with griffins instead of planes.
Only question I have is it tournaments and can civilians join?
There are tournaments. There are wrestling and boxing matches basically where like each ward has like representatives that like compete to like see who's the best fighter essentially. There's also sort of like there's like, you know, stalls around that are like there are a lot of like, you know, games like, you know, test your aim, or, you know, knock the prizes off the shelf with this crappy bow and arrow and like that kind of stuff. It's like a big festival kind of thing. So yeah, there's like competitions and
Are there
events.
prizes? Cash prizes?
Maybe. Usually it's like more along the lines of like, like a trophy or like a kind of tacky like little figurine or something of the likes. But sometimes you can win money, especially in the big like ward versus ward like boxing and wrestling matches. It's usually like a cash prize to whoever wins.
That's like sticks in the tournaments all over.
Well, I mean, like Mallory would say, it's like we could go back to Blue Alley. There was that sword at the end that we never got, and that riddle that we never solved. Alternatively, we could maybe spend the day looking at the festivities around town. If you'd all prefer.
Blue Alley, 3 people. You know what?
None of us particularly good at jumping.
I
think
look at
Bassett
her
can
like
jump.
I look at her and look back at me. I'm like, I'm a cat. I jump for a living.
No, you cook food.
Shut up. Stop being smart.
Oh yeah, we'll have Bassett next since Morton's here. One day I'll use them.
Plastic snacks.
And I have a rope.
Exactly. I think Blue Alley.
I won't
But you know,
disagree.
Whatever
All
floats
right.
your boat.
But the
Brad,
festivities do sound interesting.
they do sound interesting, I will admit.
Though I've probably seen this before.
I think Valerie has as well, to be honest. She lives here. Lived here her whole life. Alright, let's go to Blue Alley. We can always, like,
Okay.
see if we can get that sword. And if not, then, well, shit. Hey, listen, I now know that I can prepare 5 spells.
Good.
All right. So you begin to make your way to Blue Alley. You see the streets are sort of it's not like a business is closed sort of holiday. So the streets are still busy and people like coming and going to do their work. But in the intermittently there's like parades and the likes as you make your way once more to the seaward towards the entrance of Blue Alley. And as you arrive there, you see like streets are pretty like well cleared here. Doesn't seem to be a lot of coming and going here. You see like guards kind of like coordinating off areas, obviously in preparation for one of the big sort of like military parade demonstrations. And as you make your way to the Blue Alley, turning that familiar corner into the blue sort of cobblestone streets there, you see basically up ahead of you the lectern that is there at the entrance. There is what appears to be like a sign sort of like hanging off of it.
Closed for
And
closed
as you
for
get a little
holidays.
closer, written in all blue, it sort of says "closed for holiday celebrations."
Oh my god, I fucking knew it. Well, I would like to say I'm surprised, but oddly enough, this kind of sounds very expected of the man.
He did like to watch
Well,
people.
That's true. So I guess then, if there's nothing, Val would sort of look and say, it's like, well, if there's any festivities any of you would be primarily interested in seeing, I think maybe we could do that. However, and she does think for a minute, there was, Zardos Zord and his traveling troupe that from Luskin were doing a performance, I think.
I'm just standing there like a fucking question mark.
Yeah.
I don't know if Martin was there for that one.
Okay, I don't think either of you. Okay, no, I should say. Well, during our investigations, like I imagine we're leaving and we're walking as we're leaving. It's like this Zardos Zord was one of the people that we questioned about the murders during the investigation. His troop has apparently got a celebration that they're doing. We could maybe go see them. I don't know, Brad. Is there like any big like notable things to go look at in during the celebration?
I mean, like, there's basically, like, intermittently throughout the day, there are, big military parades where the different branches of, like, Waterdeep's military sort of, like, put on parades and, like, perform demonstrations. There are tournaments, like I said, boxing and wrestling matches, like, staged in the markets between, like, different wards, right, where each ward is like competing to be like that year's champion or whatever. They all send their strongest participants to try to win the coveted award. There are like street performers doing like juggling weapons and breathing fire, showing off their skills, like all sorts of basically like distractions around the city during the normal goings on of the day. But there are some like obviously the biggest event is when the Field of Triumph is like cleared out of any of the horses that are just hanging around, and then like the Griffin cavalry put on their big like aerial show. Then there's also rumors basically that there's going to be some sort of like big like to do down in the dock ward at some point. Have kind of
Oh
spread
man,
through the city.
that sounds cool. Well, I suppose like Zardoz Zord is a name of a person that I've encountered that's doing something during this festival. So let's go see what his thing's about. Maybe we can catch a glimpse of what's happening in the dock ward while we're there.
If we go past the stole with a bow and arrow thingy, I'm doing it.
If
Sure.
it has a cash prize, definitely do it.
Exactly.
All right. So you begin to make your way. Making your way.
Make my way downtown, walking
Downtown.
fast, chicken blast.
You're going to the dock ward, you said?
Yeah, Zardoz Zord.
All
He's
right.
got his thing going on there.
Yeah, so you begin making your way down there. As you do, I think let us take a short break here. We'll say 5-10 minutes, and then we'll be back, and basically we'll cut to you guys arriving at the dock ward.
Sounds good. This be where Brad's like, well, I need to know what happens here.
What? No. Anyways, see you in 5 to 10 minutes. And we are returned. All right, so you guys have made your way from the seaboard in the north, having visited Blue Alley and found it closed for the holidays, as dungeons do, and have decided to visit the dock ward and see what the Sea Maiden's Fair is up to, run by the mysterious Captain Zardoz Zord, whom you have yet to meet but have heard much about from his sort of crew, essentially. And as you arrive in the dock ward, you see that there is quite a crowd of people basically gathered around the streets that are like the main dock street that travels all throughout the ward along the coastline. And you can see there are a number of stalls that have been hastily erected of various different sort of carnival games basically going on. And you can see there are performers on every street corner basically, juggling weapons. Some of them are doing fencing matches and whatnot. There are acrobats performing. It just seems to be that they have gone all out for these festivities. And as you were kind of making your way down, there is one thing that sort of catches your eye more than any of these other performances that are going on. At some point, as you're kind of searching around a little bit more, you notice that there is a ring of people basically around, have formed a circle, and in the center of that you see what appears to be a member of the city's watch, sort of striking up a sparring pose, basically fencing sword style, and across from him you see what appears to be a short humanoid figure, but not of flesh and blood. Rather, you see sort of metal and cogs and gears sort of whirling underneath the sort of bronze skin of this construct. Their chest piece has been basically molded to almost resemble a suit of breastplate armor, although it is quite clearly just the creature's outer skin, and you can see sort of steam and gears whirring underneath that. They have what appears to be a fencing sword and this sort of big pointed tricorn hat with a large elaborate feather sort of sticking out of the cap, and kind of a little goatee sort of mustache combo deal made of metal on their face, obviously trying to look like a humanoid face. And you see as you're approaching that this guard seems to be sparring with this construct, which despite its nature, in general constructs are usually kind of slow and clumsy. This one seems to be very nimble, ducking and diving underneath blows, sort of landing very quick strikes, and it seems to be quite advanced in its construction. You're not exactly sure what it is necessarily, or where these performers got it, but it does seem to be putting on quite the show. You see there's a large crowd kind of gathered around, and that is something that stands out to you as you're making your way around. Is there anything in particular you're kind of looking around for down here in the dock ward, or are you just here to enjoy what the festivities that the fair is putting on?
Stole
this is
second shoot with bow and arrow.
Yeah, this is Zardoz Zord's fair. This was the one Valerie kind of had in mind. So I think she'd probably just kind of look around. I think this construct would interest her quite a bit. So I think she'd watch this for a little while. She'd say as well, it's don't feel like you have to stick around me if you want to go see some of the other things.
Sure. So Bassic wanders off looking for an archery stall, basically.
Yep.
Are you going to do anything in particular, or are you just going to hang out with Valerie?
I'll just hang out.
Okay. So we'll start with the two of you as Bassic goes off searching.
Well, I suppose as Bassic leaves then, if Arya's staying, Valerie will give you a sending stone. And she says, I've got the other one. If you run into any trouble, call me on this. But you only get one shot at it.
I look at it and I smile to myself and I walk away.
Yeah, so as Bassic walks away, you hear a cheer sort of erupt from the crowd, and you turn to see what's going on. People are sort of clapping and cheering, and you see basically the guard that was fighting the the construct has like dropped his weapons and sort of like put his hand up as the construct is like holding the point of an obvious like sort of like training fencing sword to the guard's like throat before sort of like peeling it back, swiping it in the air a couple of times before like spinning it and like returning it back into a scabbard. And you see people are sort of like cheering as the guard kind of like stands up, brushes himself off, like bows a couple of times and like leaves, obviously somewhat ashamed of his performance against this metal man. And the construct sort of like bows a couple of times to the crowd before you see emerging from the other side, like behind this curtained like stall, essentially, this human man who is about average height and a build, who is wearing what can only be described as possibly like the skimpiest outfit you could possibly imagine without giving everything away. It is obviously designed in such a way to elaborate on his incredibly hairy chest, which is like just fully exposed. And you see that he is wearing what appears to be this sort of like captain style tricorn hat. As he sort of like enters, like takes a bow, people are like throwing money into the circle, which you see like a couple of like sailors, like obviously like sailors, kind of like scooping it up and gathering it all. And yeah, you see this man stepping through out, and let me just give you a handout to show you what he looks like. That is
Wow!
That is actually what he's wearing.
Are you kidding me? What is
Ew.
like? What is?
Is this from
What
the
is, like,
Peter Pan porn parody?
What is like
Potentially,
the
yes.
bandolier though? Like, shotgun shells aren't a thing. So what's in there?
Who knows? But he emerges into the crowd, like sort of like raising his hands, calming people down, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Who would like to be the next to duel with the great Lushkin Nimblewright?" And people are sort of like calming down, like looking around the crowd, like people pushing him, like, you go, like, no, you. And any challengers? And he's sort of like looking around. Basically, like there's an air of silence as people are like whispering to each other, like waiting to see who the next person who's going to fight this construct is. And you see he's sort of like standing on this pulpit looking over. And yeah, you could see like eventually somebody gets like pushed forward into the ring, like hesitantly, kind of like crawling forward. And yeah, the man sort of like claps his hands together and he says, "Excellent. I was afraid after that showing that people would be scared away. Come, let us see what you're made of." And one of these sort of like helpers, basically one of the fair crew, essentially kind of like gives this
Didn't mean to
man
click
like
that.
a training sword and oh yeah, casting sanctuary already. So gives the
Didn't
man a
mean to
training
click
sword
that.
and you see another sort of like spar begins to happen, and you see that this figure sort of steps down from the pulpit and once more kind of like disappears into that curtained room that has been set up. And then
Are there bets? Are people betting?
yeah, I mean, there's probably like people sort of like you could see like money like exchanging hands or whatever very hastily. Nothing like constructed, right? Just like between friends or whatever.
Damn. Fair enough then. Well, I think Valerie would just like whittle away time, observe the show.
Sure.
If anything interesting happens, then she'll probably want to maybe go and check that out.
Yeah, so you watch like a couple of more spars, and basically like at least for the ones that you watch, you don't spend too much time. The ones that you watch before moving on to like see some of the other things, the Nimblewright, as this figure called it, manages to handily win the next two bouts that it has. It would seem like whatever this construct is, it is quite the fighter. And it was designed as such. It fights with a almost sort of like an almost like human level of kind of reaction and sort of like forethought in its fighting style. Definitely quite advanced. And yeah, as you make your way, Basic, you're wandering around looking for some sort of like archery competition or game of the likes, I would say you will probably find something of the sort. There is like a stall set up where basically like they have put out basically like an archery range, right? Where like at one end you have like this bow and arrow. You buy like however many shots and you try to like hit the target as dead center as possible. And they have some like prizes. None of them are like cash prizes, but you see like some like prizes, like little like carvings. There's like a big like trophy basically like for whoever can land a bullseye. And you see people sort of like stepping up and obviously not knowing what they're doing. They like pull the bow, the arrow back, and it just sort of like snaps out of the bow into the ground right in front of them. And everybody chuckles and laughs and has a good time making fun of them before the next person steps up and like shoots an arrow and it like hits into the wall behind the target. You can see there's quite a bit of a lineup here, but there is some sort of like archery game set up.
I'll get in line.
Okay, yeah, so you get in line, it takes a little bit before you like get to the front, and they sort of like look you up and down, the attendant, and he sort of says, would you be interested to give it a shot, sir? 1 quiver of arrows, 5 gold. Hit the bullseye and the trophy is yours.
I put up 5 gold in.
All right, so he hands over like a quiver with 5 shots in it. And steps back.
So just normal 5 shots, right?
Yeah. So as you're sort of holding this bow in your hand, one thing that you can tell, just like immediately off the bat, as you're familiar with the bow. First of all, it is sort of constructed to be a short bow, so like anybody can use it. It's not this big unwieldy long bow. So it's like a short bow. The target is just ever so slightly out of the optimal range. Like where they tell you to stand and where the target is, just ever so slightly out of the optimal range of the short bow. So you are going to be making your shots at disadvantage. But you can make up to 5 ranged attack rolls and see if you can land a bullseye.
Yeah, let's see here. 5 shots with disadvantage. Right. I just what's the short bow again?
You can just roll. Yeah, you can just like roll your longbow, but just
6.
minus.
D20 plus 6.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that works too.
Wait.
You including the plus 1?
Well, he doesn't get the plus
I'm
1.
using
He's
a
not
longbow
using
now, right?
his bow. Yeah, he's using the provided one.
What? Oh damn!
Well,
None
they're
of
not
your
gonna let him
magical
use his
shenanigans.
own.
To attack roll. Yes. Plus 8 actually, because I have a fighting style.
Mm-hmm.
So. 16 and 27, so 16.
So yeah, your first shot sort of lands, hitting like the outer ring of the target, and people sort of like clap and applaud. You're probably like the first person they've seen land a shot on the target in a while. And you hear the announcer like, "Ooh, so close! Only a few inches more to the right, and perhaps we might have had a champion. But he still has 4 arrows left." And he's kind of like hyping up the crowd. Again, sort of another shot, just hitting the outskirts of the target.
Nasty.
Oh, if only. You line up what you expect to be like the perfect shot and let loose with the arrow, but you just slightly misjudge how much you have to correct for the extra distance, and it falls just short, landing just below the bullseye, and you hear the crowd go like, "Oh!" Like everybody's just like,
This game is rigged.
I mean, kind
True.
of.
Like,
I look at the guy in the stall like, can I use my own bow?
He says, "I'm afraid that's against the rules, my friend. Don't know if you've had any sort of shenanigans cast upon that thing, We've had a lot of people try to come up and, well, swindle
I just
us."
asked.
nailed it.
Straight and go.
That's a pretty good shot. As it sort of flies out, I would say this one probably lands in like the just like the second ring, right? You're like so close to the bullseye, almost there.
What the fuck? What is the bullseye on this thing?
The bow. I think the bow is definitely weighted for the arrows. Okay, never mind.
All right. That I believe that is your last 2, 3,
Yes.
4, 5. This one again sort of hits the targeting circle, and everybody sort of like kind of like claps, and he says, "Well, there you have it. No bullseye, but to be fair, that is the greatest demonstration of skill that we have seen all day. Most people can't even hit the target." And he says, "Good job." He like pats you on the back, and he says, "Good job, my friend. You, sir, have at least earned a consolation prize." And he sort of gestures to basically like a bunch of like trinkets and like knickknacks that have been like set up as like consolation prizes. And he says, "You may take your pick of the lot."
I haven't ever overheard any kids wanting anything particular of that one.
Let me see here. Let me just see what's actually there. Can you roll
Actually,
it?
could you win me the stuffed dragon?
Preferably like some orphan kids or something.
Sure,
Not some
yeah. I mean,
spoiled brats.
there's kids around. Can you roll a D100 for me, and let's see what it is that
You just see Jinx there.
If one of our orphans are there, I'm taking it that.
Alrighty then, 57. That is a number. There's a chart here somewhere that number.
That is a number.
That is.
What does the
so-
trinkets table say?
You do see a kid who's sort of like staring with wide eyes towards what appears to be this sort of like there's like a glass bottle, like basically like kind of like an empty like wine bottle or something like that has like a stopper in it, and you see what appears to be a small sort of like miniature like construction of a sailing ship inside of this bottle. And you see this kid sort of like eyeing it with kind of like, you know, lustful eyes.
Okay, I point at that bottle and
Yeah, so one of the attendants sort of like scoops it up into your hand, and you see the kid kind of like a frown begins to like form on his face.
I kind of like take it and like kind of go like knee down to the kid and go, "Here we go."
He looks like incredulous at first as you kind of like place it down into his hands, and he sort of like looks down at it, like looks up at you, and he says, "Are you sure this is okay, mister?"
I'm very sure.
And they sort of wide smile, like kind of crosses their face, and they kind of like, you know, like nod at you and kind of like run off excitedly to go brag to all their friends.
I chuckle
Look
to
what-
myself.
That kid's gonna be like, look what I won.
Oh yeah.
So I think some time, basically like, you know, an hour or two of you guys just perusing the festivities happens before eventually you guys like meet back up, having sort of seen what the Sea Maiden's Fair has to offer.
I was thinking actually, like, while me and like Arya are like walking, I imagine there's things like fortune tellers and stuff, isn't there? Like, come get your fortune told and shit, right?
I would say just based on the general air of this particular festivity that's going on and like the holiday itself, that probably not. This is more of kind of like a martial exploits kind of holiday. So there's not really
Okay.
like fortune tellers or anything like that. It's mostly
Fair
like,
enough.
you know, performers, acrobats, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, as we like meet up and are walking again, I suppose like Vi would like ask Guy, and it's like well, so at these festival things, maybe not this one, there's usually fortune tellers. Do you give them much credence? I'm just curious.
I mean, some of them are most of them are just grifters, though.
How do you tell which one's the real deal or not?
It's just something you develop an eye for when you're in the business yourself. You can't give away all the secrets.
I suppose. Maybe you could read our fortune sometime.
Maybe.
Maybe
And I was sort of
already
like,
have. Dun dun dun.
Is there any sign of like any of the gang violence that's been plaguing the city as we're like walking around the dock ward and looking at this stuff?
No, as you're like walking around, just like patrolling like the main sort of like dock street that follows along the docks and the festivities that have been set up by the Sea Maiden's Fair. You can see like the jovial attitude of the people sort of like celebrating this festivity. Doesn't sort of bear any of the signs of the kind of like dour situation in the dock ward. People seem, happy, excited. They're not like downtrodden. There's no sign of like fights erupting or anything like that. It's actually sort of like, to them, it seems like a welcome distraction from the ongoings.
Like Valerie would sort of say to the rest, and it's like, given the violence between the gangs and dock wars of late, am I the only one that feels like it's maybe a bit too perfect at the moment?
What do you mean?
Well, there's been so much killings between the gangs as of late. Between the maybe it's likely that they called a truce for the festive season, but I don't know. It just feels a bit off that there's been no sign of any trouble whatsoever. Nothing more than, I suppose, a drunken brawl, really. Just me.
Is it noticeable that there's like any more guards patrolling than usual or anything?
Not really. I mean, there aren't actually a lot of guards sort of present on the street. Many of them having been sort of like basically setting up for like the big, parade where like the guard puts on a show and whatnot. So there's, if anything, there's actually less guards than usual.
Well, I can only assume that it's more profitable for them that nothing disturbs this festivity.
Or might have something to do with the amount of people, more witnesses.
Possible. Or maybe they're all just getting ready for the opera.
Perhaps. I don't know. James, maybe not Valerie, definitely feels like something wrong here. But like, I'm not an underground initiate. Brad, would Sir Reginald maybe be with us even though Zach's not here?
No, he's not here.
Damn.
I don't know. Would I have any idea if anything's going on?
I mean, it doesn't really like seem like there's nothing really like on surface level that you can seems to be like wrong. I mean, maybe it is just that they, it's better for them that things go uninterrupted here. Maybe they came to an agreement. Maybe they're all dead. Who knows? But for the time being, it would seem the result is that it is a rather peaceful day in the dock ward as compared to recent events.
Now, I know Valerie wants to stay out of the gang violence, but I've also established that she has that sense of moral civic duty that these nobles have sometimes.
Noblesse oblige.
Hmm?
Noblesse oblige.
Yeah, I suppose so. Where was Zoblov's shop again? He was in the dock ward, wasn't he?
Yes. His shop was right here.
Old Zoblov's shop. Well, we're sort of here already. I suppose Valerie would like, as we're sort of like meandering through and looking at all the different stuff that's happening. Like, but I would say it's like, maybe we'll swing by Zoblov's shop. Maybe he can enlighten us as to whether there is, like, if the gangs truly come to some sort of agreement or whether there's something more malicious. Probably nothing. Maybe I'm just being a bit paranoid, but it would set my mind at ease.
Lead the way.
The Zoblov shop.
Okay. So you make your way once more to the familiar old Zoblov shop, and for the benefit
Very purple.
For the benefit of Elise, who is not here, I will once again describe what you see, basically, as you enter here. So there is one shop, basically, in this kind of intersection that stands out above the others. Its facade is painted a deep purple, and in its window is hanging a stuffed beholder. Above the door, there's a sign whose elaborate letters spell out Old Zoblob Shop. And you see basically this cloud of lavender-scented purple smoke kind of trailing out from the open shop door. And I assume you enter.
Yep.
So as you enter, you see that inside, every single wall is painted the same shade of deep purple. And there are a number of dusty knickknacks on the shelves, all of them dyed a similar hue. Sitting cross-legged on the counter as you enter inside is a hairless old gnome wearing plum-colored robes, his cheeks decorated with 9 purple face-painted eyes. As you enter, he lowers a pipe and exhales this cloud of lavender smoke before raising a hand and saying, "Hail and well met! Come browse the shelves of the most curious curiosity shop in the world!" And as you're entering, and he says, "Wait a minute, I recognize you." He says, "You've been here before," and he's sort of pointing to Valerie. And he says, "Couldn't resist the old Zoblob shop now, could you? Nobody ever can."
Suppose not. Return customer and all that. And she'll say, "How has it been, Zoblob, with the festivities and all?"
And he says, "Well, I'll say, sales on purple swords are way up." But other than
Did we
that-
see anyone with purple swords on the way here?
No.
And she'll chuckle a bit and say, "Well, that's good to hear." I was actually wondering if I could ask you... I actually came here, I was wondering if I could ask you something. So Reginald's not with us today, but I figured I may as well try.
And he says, "Well, I suppose."
I might even purchase a purple sword. Or 2.
And he says, "Well, now, you've caught my interest."
And she'll nod and she'll say, "It's like, I'm not sure how much you can help in this, but... Well, I find that the festivities are on and all that, and I understand that, but with so much violence going on in the Dock District as of late with the Xanathars Guild, I just found it a bit jarring, I suppose, that there hasn't been any trouble whatsoever. It's like, do you know if the gangs have struck up any sort of truce, or whether their conflict is merely taking place elsewhere?"
And he says, "Well, now, while the tyrant in the window might have 9 eyes, I myself only have 2. And he says, "I am not really one to keep an eye on the whole Dock Ward, but I can say that there's been somewhat of a lapse in, kidnappings and abductions outside of my place of business, at least." And he says, "Although I must say that, such things rarely occur, in close sequence to each other, even when in the midst of a full-out gang war."
So you've heard nothing then?
And he says, "Alas and alack, I am afraid that I have no news for you on that front."
Could I, do an insight?
I mean, you certainly may if you want to.
I mean, just my own curiosity, really.
And he's weird, but he doesn't seem to be lying.
Well, I suppose it's worth a shot. I mean, I suppose if there's no violence, then that's good for anyone, but I don't know. Still find it quite odd. Well, I did promise after all, and I suppose, actually thinking about it, I've got an opera tonight. Does he have, a piece of purple jewelry that I could wear?
Yeah, so you go looking around. Let me see what sort of things he has. Yeah, there's little bits and bobs. You see a purple brass ring, kind of planted on one. There's a little sort of purple gold necklace. There's some basically trinkets and baubles. Nothing super fancy, but there's a couple of odds.
How much is the ring?
The ring. Why don't you roll for me a d6? It is 2 gold.
Wonderful. Well, like I promised, I'll say it's I will purchase something for asking him the question. I'll take the ring.
Excellent, excellent. We have a deal, young lady. Make good use of it. He hands the ring over.
I will try, and I'll I suppose hold the ring up to my eye, sort of as a joke as to what happened last time. Nothing. Shame.
Can't all
right.
be winners, I'm afraid.
Were you expecting something?
And as we're she'll go to leave and she'll say it's well, that little thing there, and she gestures to was it a stuffed beholder? Was it?
Yeah, there's a big it's not little. It's a full size stuffed beholder in the window.
Oh right, yeah, a full size stuffed beholder. She'll gesture around. It's that keeps an eye outside the shop for him. I think it's got some sort of enchantment on it.
I woke up to Arya and go like, yeah, last time he saw through it. He saw some illusions on the other side. Don't question.
I see.
So yeah, I think
That's
as you're
weird.
like making your way out of the shop, Arya, you kind of like glance over at this beholder as they're pointing at it, and you swear for a moment that the central eye is sort of like following you as you leave, but you blink and it sort of snaps back to just staring straight ahead. And with that, where would you like to head next? It's
Well-
now probably, like it's probably been like most of the morning is gone at this point. It's getting
Mhm.
later in the day.
Yeah, well, I think Barry would say it's like, well, there's the opera tonight, and we have some time to kill. I suppose we could all either head back and rest or enjoy some more of the festivities. I don't really have anything in mind myself.
Suppose we could grab some lunch. So
Yeah, sounds good. Suppose we'll like eat. I think also like I know you said there was murmurings that something big might be happening in the dock ward for the festival. I'd definitely like to see what that's about.
I mean, that was the Sea Maiden's Fair.
All right, that was the Sea
Yeah.
Maiden's Fair, right? That was it. Never mind then. Yeah, well, I think we'll just sort of kill time until the opera.
All right. So you guys like find like a cafe or something to hang out with somewhere, in a nicer part of
If
town.
there's any gangs, if we see any gangs, different story entirely.
You go hang out at the
are there
yawning
any
portal.
gangs around here? Anyone know of any
Anybody
gangs?
know any gangs? Any gang violence going on? Anybody? Are you a gang member? You gonna fight that other gang member? So you hang out at the closest eatery establishment that you can think of, that being the Yawning Portal. All roads lead back there. And as you're gathered in amidst the patronage, you could see there's an air of kind of, even more so than usual, this air that like a brawl could break out any minute in the Yawning Portal, and the only thing stopping it is like Durnan with his greatsword like on the counter, like ready to go.
He's put it on the counter.
It's just like on the counter, just sitting there, and he's like eyeing everybody in the room as they like are eyeing each other, like want to go make. So yeah, there's this tense situation, and I think that this is where we shall call things off for today, and then next time we will pick up and probably continue with your meeting with the Money Lord at the local opera.
Alright, sounds good. Who's doing recap next week?
Yes, indeed. So, thank you all for playing today, and who would like to do the recap for inspiration next week? It is between Morton and Elise. Going once.
Morton, do you want to do it?
Oh, fuck, I was muted. I have an inspiration.
Oh, you have inspiration.
Shit.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Elise.
I've already forgotten what happened.
This is fine.
Not a lot happened, to be fair. Like, you don't have a lot to regale.
You can always ask for assistance from the others, the other two, closer to the day of.
And Brad does also stream, so the VODs are on Twitch.
That's true. You could
That's
just watch it.
Was that Brad?
That is true. You could just watch it. Definitely no super secret notes here. No, I think I was on just the player portraits mode the whole time, so you wouldn't even see any super secret notes. Anyways, that'll be it for today, and we will be back next week. Hopefully, Mike will be feeling better, and Zach won't have an excuse to miss out this time, and we'll have the full crew.
Mhm.
But if not, the show will go on. So until then,